Welcome to Marketing Machines and Mischief, where we have already witnessed the singularity at least twice during the show, so stick around. I'm Matthew Newell.
And I'm Chris Stone, and on today's episode, it's all about the World Cup today. Matthew and I will be breaking down the World Cup 2026 from the second most important perspective, marketing and advertising, viewership, standout ads, brand winners, and some football losers.
It is our quadrennial World Cup marketing show. We've never missed one in the history of Marketing Machines and Mischief. If you work in marketing or advertising and want to be the Messi or Lamin Yamal of the industry, it starts right here, right now. Welcome to the big show. I hope you have your World Cup vuvuzelas ready to go for this episode. Were they banned in the United States, by the way? They didn't make a comeback in where did the stadiums ban them because we're weird?
It's actually a crime worldwide to ever blow one.
I know a lot of people who would agree with that. So we are going to start from the top with the World Cup. From most measurements, we'll break it down, but from most measurements, it was a massive success. It was a massive success for the players. It was a massive success for the fans. But let's be honest here. It was a massive success for the network and the marketers. And that's why we all get together to celebrate this beautiful game. So let's start, Chris. Here's the main number that people want to figure out to start this whole conversation is what was the number of the final on Sunday, Argentina against Spain. The last number that I saw was 1.8 billion people watching the final. And so let's put that in contrast. I know every soccer fan says this, and I'll say it again. We go nuts in the United States when a Super Bowl gets like 125 million, 100. I think recently the top number has been like 132, 135 for a Super Bowl. And here we are at, what is that?
9 times?
15, 10. Like, yeah, it's like
live mathing. Here we go.
That's right. Like, it is unbelievable how much bigger this is than anything that you could compare it to.
Obviously, the numbers are rolling in, and now we're going, wow. But while it was happening, it was in conversations of people that are not even sports people. I mean, I was having to explain the game to people that I was having Zoom calls with, that I was going out meeting with, and like, boy, I tell you what, I watched that Portugal match. That guy, Ronnie Ronaldo, one of the greatest players in the world. And like, why don't they end the game when the game ends? And like all of those questions, and I'm sitting here explaining it, for being a soccer fan and a World Cup fan. And my son playing soccer all the way through college, it's just sort of like, I understand these things, but I saw a lot of people just kind of saying, yeah, well, we got together and we watched it almost like it was the Super Bowl. They even had a halftime show, which we should talk a little bit about.
We'll definitely talk about, definitely. Anytime you work the Muppets into a halftime show, you're doing something right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's some of the numbers that I found just to give us some context for how we talk about through the show, because this is a marketing advertising show, and yes, the FIFA World Cup is about soccer, wink, but it's also about advertising and marketing. $8.9 billion. These are all preliminary numbers, but 8.9. Let's just call it 9 billion. In revenue for FIFA. $9 billion. That is, I'm sure we could do like an economics, like that's, 40 countries' GDPs rolled up into one, but 9 billion is nothing to sneeze at. So 4 of that was from TV rights.
Yeah.
1.8 was from like brands, marketing rights, corporate sponsorships. And then it says 34% from hospitality. Oh, tickets. Yeah. Then the rest is just from, from the fans. And I guess it says hospitality. I guess they're getting maybe like nearby hotels. They're getting a cut of.
100%. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. And the ticketing is the face value tickets, like how the tickets rolled out to the public, which I'm not super familiar on how they broke it down per stadium in the US, Canada, and Mexico, and how they were made available to people. And then how, of course, the real money comes from the resale market, right? So people buy up as many tickets as they can. And I don't know if you saw in the final, there were tickets that were like $40,000, $10,000. I think the least amount of ticket but prior to the game that I saw was anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a seat.
That is
a lot of money. A lot of money on a resale thing. Yeah, the TV rights is interesting. That a majority of that money comes from from TV, from Fox, Telemundo, and others. So,
and I want to say I already saw some press reports about one of the major broadcasters, one of the major US broadcasters or North American broadcasters, already starting to put together a pitch package for, I guess it'd be 2030 in lieu of Fox. I don't think it was. Oh, it was. It was ABC ESPN, which would make an enormous amount of sense. You've got all the feel good world branding of on the Disney side and the corporate side, and they're big enough to handle it. And then of course you've got all the built-in eyeballs on the ESPN side, all of their digital distribution. Not that it doesn't feel like Fox did a terrible job, especially in the early matches, when they were playing like 8-10 a day, whatever it was. They seem to keep up with it, just fine. But when you've got, the ESPN app at your, as someone who watches some tennis at the beginning of a tournament that ESPN's covering, you can literally watch, they'll do 70 matches in a day,
right.
And you can tune into maybe not any of them, maybe not, Roscoe Pico train who just got through qualifiers.
Wow,
but
it's a hazard reference. No one had. I did not have that on my bingo card.
Not on the FIFA, on the FIFA episode. You're right.
No, I don't think it's going to be about how good or bad Fox did. And I thought everything was fine. I mean, you just like in that, hearkening back to our conversation with Professor Heiler, just don't crash the car, Fox.
That's right. That's right.
Just run the ads, make sure the car doesn't crash. I think it's going to come down to what you're talking about. It's going to come down to that distribution point. So for the ESPN app, I know Fox has an app. Like that's cute. But the ESPN app, obviously, the integration ESPN has, the distribution that ESPN has from a digital standpoint is going to set itself apart. And then, of course, how much you got, how much you got, Fox. That's going to play into it, of course.
That's it. It's such a good point, which really is going to, I mean, short of getting into partnerships, it's really just going to depend on, because both Disney and Fox are publicly traded. So a lot of it's just going to have to do with the stock price in the next year, like before the bidding starts, like who can ratchet that up. Let me get some other numbers out there to set the table. Fox and Telemundo, the two of them combined had an average of 10 million viewers across the group stage. I mean, those are terrific numbers. Round of 32, it was an average of 17 million for between the two. Repeatedly reset records or met records. So I've got a couple of theories. This clearly was just a no-brainer home run for FIFA for maybe for everyone except for Argentina, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that that was already in the stars and this was just fait accompli, or do you think that there was that there were some very specific things that happened leading up to this particular FIFA that made it so, especially as an American, where it felt like it was really shockingly all we did for like a month and a half.
One of the things that my guess is, I haven't read anything that prove me right or wrong on this, is that what FIFA wanted to do by having this on U.S. soil, also Canada and Mexico, but many of the games were in the United States. Soccer, football, non-American football, I guess we'll call it, is growing in popularity, has been growing in popularity, but still is not as popular. A lot of it has to do with MLS, being based mostly in the United States, and that league just kind of being subpar, especially to the leagues in Europe, and the players. A lot of the star players that you saw in the World Cup play in Europe. I think. But the popularity has increased, and by doing something that huge, by doing something that massive, you literally turn on your television there was so much attention that, like I said before, there was so many people that were talking about it that generally aren't even into sports that much. They were like, I like that mess guy, and they were like, and you were having this conversation, and that grows the sport in the United States. And for me, I'm always into that. And was that intentional, with all of the stuff that was doing? Maybe it was a part of it, but I thought, maybe I'm a little bit surprised that it did so well. And you're not getting that much of the American noise that are poo-pooing the sport, going, oh, everybody's flopping. Yeah, everybody flops in the NBA too. So it's a part of the game, and they're doing things about it. But I am pleasantly surprised at how popular it has been. I'm happy that is. I think the real test, Matthew, is when the next World Cup happens. That's not in the U.S. Yes. Are we going to see that same sort of viewership from here in the States? I don't know.
Because then you get into when it's not in the US, you get into those situations like you and I were used to from years gone by. That's exactly right. It's the time where your big German fans have to get up at 10 in the morning.
You have to get up at 10 in the morning?
What? Hey, I'm giving you a little bit of insight into my day. Where you're setting the alarm for 3 a.m. and stuff. I've got two. I'd love to hear. I've got two theories, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. One I think is non-controversial. The other one might be interesting to you. The first one is, Ted Lasso was such a it was a very well documented, smash hit. I think I'm going to choose my words carefully, because it kind of I'm sometimes when we're in marketing, we describe things a little more tactically than
nuanced.
Exactly. I think Ted Lasso brought the heart into the game. I think a lot of the people who were into football previous to that, it was the competition, it was the international, you had ties to watching it but this was like, so you had a good non-scary way of someone explaining the game to you, and two lovable Americans explaining the game to you, no less. Mm-hmm. So you had the Ted Lasso effect. So I think there was a little bit more built-in understanding. But here's the one that there's no way that I could prove. It's just a gut instinct. And Chris, sometimes us marketers have to go with gut. So think about the time. It's like Steve Martin said, everything is about timing. Sorry. Timing. I always mess that up. So just like he said, it's all about timing. And think about in the States, we had the 250th celebration of our country. And that kind of, I don't want to get political on this show, but it kind of got a little awkward. Like, are we really like, who am I rooting for if I'm cheering for you at like, it kind of got weird. Then on TV, like you just want to sit around and watch and sit around and watch the war in Iran. Like this seemed like the thing that our country could do that was like safe and fun and all came together. The US went obviously way further than anyone imagined. And I think along the way built those memories to say, okay, now when it comes down to that terrific third place match on Saturday, that that Americans knew enough of the storylines to not just write it off as like this is the that actually was probably my favorite match. That was just like bonkers.
Yeah. By the way, normal soccer matches don't score 9 goals. By the way, it's usually more like the final where it's 1-0. Right.
It kept happening so fast. I was like, oh my goodness.
What are we doing? Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. I love that take. I do. And I felt that as well. It's very similar, Matthew, to when you're watching the Olympics. And so when you're watching Olympics, and you're an American-born, citizen, or somebody that is a citizen of the United States that came here after, or whatever, and you have this pride for your country. And if you're from Austria and you have pride from Austria,
yes.
And so you cheer for your team. You're vicariously doing that, and you root for that, and for years, and we're still not there yet. But for years, the U.S. U.S. men's soccer team has not been, as great as we'd like them to be. But they did go farther than we thought. They had a somewhat of an easier schedule, I think a lot of people would say. But when we finally met someone that was, a lot better than us, that it showed. But I felt like, still there was a lot of pride that people showed. There, we're rooting for them. This is on our home turf. Wouldn't it be awesome? And I think that is, like you said, I think everybody kind of maybe pulls down the walls a little bit on their thoughts about, politics and what's going on here. Let's all hit pause and watch, hopefully, Christian Pulisic get a hat trick and beat this team that we're playing. But it didn't necessarily pan out that way. So everybody, sort of, back to screaming at each other on Facebook about political matters. Go ahead.
What was the in lean the answer toward, with a marketing tilt to it? What was the most unanticipated like storyline, either from a particular game or throughout? I can go with mine to not catch you off guard, but you actually reminded me of this coming into the show. The whole ranch dressing thing. You want to talk about an unintended winner?
Oh God. Yeah.
Like that ranch dressing became like the obsession of just to give a little bit of context. If someone missed it, so many, particularly of the Europeans, but it seemed to have broadened from just the Europeans, became obsessed with American ranch dressing. And the funny thing is, the joke, at least in America, is that ranch dressing is for an unintellectual, uninspired food palate. I think that's saying it correctly. So yeah, I mean, like what Procter and Gamble executives saw that one coming, that all of a sudden they're having to crank up production by 10%.
Yeah, but I mean, what I like what Kraft did is that now they announced it. I mean, it's going to take a minute for them to. I mean, they couldn't do this in time, for everybody to travel back to their countries after the final. But they realized, these people were going and back to their countries, and they couldn't smuggle back all of the ranch dressing. So TSA was like, you can't bring this jug of ranch dressing with you on a plane. And so they're coming out with TSA compliant ranch packets meant in a carry-on bag And you get a 16-ounce bottle of Kraft's classic ranch dressing, of course, with it, right? So you can have one for the fridge, right? And and then you've got packets to take with you when you
brilliant.
So
brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that was an amazing. I don't know if it's really a response, but I thought, okay, that's smart and a huge moment for Kraft, especially for the ranch dressing.
We are both like almost the center of the target for a demographic like Will Ferrell. What did you think of was it Lay's?
Oh yeah, where he's showing up and he's trying to talk British and
he's like, just keep like whenever your team loses, just switch teams. And what'd you think of that? Because I always wanted him to do well, but every time I saw it, I was like, I get it, but
yeah, I think
didn't seem to gain traction.
Personally, I think his comedy may have jumped the shark a little bit. We're seeing a lot of backlash on him, like, okay, Will, we've seen this character before, type of deal. I like him. I think he's genuinely funny. If you've seen him on live podcasts before, it's kind of who he is, and so. Just like, I don't know, Adam Sandler. I mean, you've got only so many tricks and, things in your bag. He's not going to show up and be something else. I was fine with it. I think one unexpected sort of surprise, and we did touch on this maybe a month or so ago when the World Cup was happening or was just, starting, was, because of FIFA and the World Cup host stadiums, are all like, Gillette Stadium in Boston. I forget the name of the
State Farm
yes. Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. And so they because Mercedes-Benz and Gillette and all these, Levi's, which we'll talk about, these are not, FIFA sponsored brands. They had to cover up their logos. And so they got really highly creative with this sort of ambush marketing. And, Levi's covered their logo up with this white thing and then jumped on social and did it. Gillette covered up their logos with shaving cream on the outside of which I thought was pretty creative. But one little thing that this wasn't more of an intentional thing that I thought was a creative thing is Rexona. Which I guess I need to Google. I don't even know what it is. It could be like some, medicated cream for something. I don't even know. Maybe a GLP-1. I don't know. But so Rexona actually on the officials put their logo under their armpits. So when the side official, when they were doing,
they
were on the board where it says, player 13 coming in for player 10, and then the numbers or whatever, and it said Rexona on the board. But when they lifted their arms in the air, the Rexona, it was like a complete, branded logo. Every time they were doing a sub, they knew they had a shot of that official, and they knew that they would have the shot underneath their arms when they held up the board. So I thought that was cool. I mean, it was hidden during normal play, right?
Yeah.
So it's compliant there, but that logo got really super high value screen time when those officials lifted those substitution and added time boards.
So smart. I mean, that's territory that goes back to what the 80s. Raise your hands if you're sure was the last time a move like that was in marketing or advertising.
Yeah,
very, very
arms in the air, wave them like you just don't care, Matthew.
I know, this is what it looks like when I don't care. Don't make fun.
For our audio only listeners, Matthew raised his hand about halfway.
That's right. Maybe this is going to be our prediction of the episode. So we went into, boy, I have gone emotionally back and forth on this way more than I should care to admit. We went into the World Cup with FIFA having designated required hydration breaks twice a game. Initially, it got a ton of pushback because it was, a pretty clear play for an extra 90 seconds. Well, I guess with another 3 minutes at least of advertising, which is billions of dollars. Don't get me wrong, but between the matches, I keep calling it the games actually being so hot, and wanting to be fair that in one game they did have hydration breaks and XYZ happened and then this didn't. My final answer is I don't mind the hydration breaks. And not just because advertisers got a little more time. It seemed part of the game.
I think we're used to it, right? And watching a sports thing.
You're right. You're right.
So ridiculous for American football games. There's so many commercials, especially big college football games, because they want to get in and all the advertising. It's like, oh God, another commercial.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's ruined it for them. So like when you get a hydration break, you're still getting this ton of actual, athleticism happening on your screen. There's some, creative advertising that's happening in there, but not a full-fledged commercial break.
Yeah.
They did some L wraps every once in a while, where there was a hydration break and then they'll go to a commercial, but then they're coming back and they're showing the players hydrating, but they're also doing advertising. So they're getting creative there. I did not feel like it was too much of an interruption. So I agree with you. And of course, I'm all for having those players hydrated. Some of those games I'm watching, I'm like, these guys have to be burning up. You could just tell they're gassed.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we had to, I'm going to show my ignorance here for a second, at least for the sport, not for marketing. Have they announced where the location of the next flight is?
The next FIFA World Cup will be held in June and July of 2030. God, it seems like so far into the future, but it's really not. In Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. And then the opening 3 matches will be scheduled in Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay.
So from a heat perspective, those countries get hot. They're probably almost exactly on the same latitude as the United States. So I guess all that to say, my guess is hydration breaks are here to stay. That we will see them.
Gotta be. I mean, who's complaining about hydration breaks? Really? I mean, maybe traditionalists.
Big thirst. The lobbyists at Big Thirst are all over this. And you know what? They can buy power in the United States.
Yes. Like Big Pharma. Yeah. All right. I should have thought about Big Thirst.
One more thing, and then we'll wrap up the show. Please, if whatever we missed, whatever your comments are, I know that you have thoughts on the World Cup. Put them down in the comments. I'm sure this conversation will go into future episodes because it really was quite a ride. But Chris, you mentioned at the top of the show, the halftime show. Americans are so used to, in fact, I would go so far as to say that we're so used to the halftime show that half the audience for the Super Bowl actually knows the halftime performer and doesn't know one of the participants, one of the sporting teams. And so this is a pretty big daggone deal to have it extended. My understanding is it extended the halftime by 10 minutes. So that's something that we can talk about. I thought, of course, being a music fan, I thought it was amazing. Madonna seemed like the perfect person to start it out with because
seemed like she was really singing. I mean,
it what I like about Madonna is that it seems like she's singing in 2026, it's exactly like she seemed like she was singing back in the 80s. Is amazing.
Because it was actually at the track from her singing.
Exactly. But the JBs, and I had to call my kiddo in because BTS were on, and I thought it was great, and everyone's
the biggest artist in the world, right? I mean, Madonna, I guess everybody knows her, so she's recognizable for sure. But I mean, when you got Justin Bieber, Shakira, BTS, these are like top Mount Rushmore, current Mount Rushmore artists in terms of popularity. So when a Shabuzi shows up and starts singing, you're just going to be like, who's that guy? Like, a lot of people are going to be like,
right.
Right. T-Pain or something like that. It's so it was, I think from that perspective, it was fine. You're never going to be able to pull something like that off and have it really be live. So I think, the horse is out of the barn in terms of like having a real, truly live performance. So it's just more of a show. And so I can't necessarily get mad at it for that reason. Apparently, I don't know if you saw this, but there's been a little scuttle about the Shakira performance. I'm not saying she did or she didn't. I'm not going to claim one thing or the other, but there was apparently people that are saying that there was a body double for Shakira at one point.
My kiddo said the same thing.
I'm like, what is happening there? I mean, you can't perform, like, why would she need a body double? I mean, you're on the screen maybe 45 seconds.
I don't know.
I mean, your hips don't lie, but maybe your body don't lie.
I'm not buying it. I think that there was maybe another situation. I think that we may be conflating stories, that there may be another situation where there was a body double involved and it was pretty transparent. And then maybe that storyline is crossed over. You're right. I don't think I don't think any, and I know she technically she was the last performer, but I don't think even FIFA would have been like, what? Why are you complicating this? We gotta get off. That's the thing that I hate that I think about, and I don't even know where this comes in me. And I do it for both the Super Bowl and for FIFA. It's such a quick, from the production side, it's such a quick setup, it's such a quick execution, and then it's such a quick teardown. And I know this. All it takes is one deadbolt or screw or something left on the field. Like, I genuinely think about that so much, of like, especially, I mean, both the football and soccer dudes, but the soccer dudes having less protection on and sliding through that wet grass. I can't imagine.
Shakira's body double leaves behind her wig. And he goes to do the corner kick and slips on it like a banana peel.
That's right. So someone gets out midfield and they're like, Shakira left her spare hips right here. They're just
these hips don't lie. They don't. I want to do one quick thing. I want to add on this, because we've been talking a lot, Matthew, about influencer marketing. Professor Jacob Heiler, go back to that episode. It has inspired us to talk a lot more about influencer marketing. And one thing that I thought was very creative that came out of what was happening with the World Cup is Lego. Right. So this is a brand with zero cleats. And of course, Lego did, you could buy the Lego version of the World Cup trophy. There's a Messi thing. There's Ronaldo, there's all the players, Mbappe, all of that. So but this is a brand that has no FIFA sponsorship, and somehow they've become one of the loudest names of the World Cup. They didn't do it by hiring an agency. They did it by getting out of the way with one guy and a lot of bricks. This is a guy, look him up on TikTok. His name is Hall of Fame Builder, and he's this creator who builds life-size World Cup brackets out of Lego and then updates them. So match by match, come in.
Cow.
Switzerland shocks Canada. He rebuilds it in plastic. And Paraguay upsets Germany, brick by brick. He posts it within hours. And here's the number. Matthew, I looked this up, that should make, everyone sort of sit up straight. That creator generated 3 times more engagement than Lego's own account.
Oh my goodness.
Lego didn't, win the internet. A guy in his living room with a bucket of bricks.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right. Lego got out of the way.
Just let him. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's, everybody else is chasing these celebrity athletes and, doing these 5-minute cinematic ads. I mean, Adidas, outstanding job. You had, Adam Sandler calls him Chamelet, with that whole Adidas thing that he did with the 30-minute deal that had, of course, Beckham and Messi and all of those. Lego looked at a guy repeatable format, build the
Yep.
bracket, react to the upset, post it, before the hot takes cool down. Absolutely brilliant, I thought, and obviously influencer marketing based. So I thought I'd mention that as well.
And I love that. One of my favorite tennis players, Iga Swiatek, is also, I think she's sponsored by Lego, so I get a lot of fun Lego stuff in my feed. A shout out to not only I Show Speed, but he was seriously everywhere. And again, I go back with Speed 4 or 5 years. The kiddo would say I'm, OG fan. But had you said that he was going to be one of the best brand ambassadors for one of the largest sports brands in the world?
Unbelievable. Yeah. You and I watched that live stream at one point, and it was like the numbers of just what, like, he wasn't broadcasting the match. He was just in the stands talking, interviewing people, hanging out, talking, watching the game, shouting at, and like the numbers on his live stream were, oh my gosh, insane.
Yeah. I got in once, and he was he had just ticked across 1 million live, which is like, he's just a guy from Ohio. Like, I love it so much. What a show, Chris. We should be very very proud of ourselves. We blew right through the hydration break. So we
don't need
do that
hydration
next time.
We don't need your stinking hydration. But what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to go down into the comment section and let us know what you thought of the World Cup and the marketing, and whether or not you took a hydration break during this episode. And while you're down there, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff they put in front of you. But as always, before we go, we have a
little lesson learned. Live sports, if you're in marketing or advertising, you better get used to it. See you next week.
Bye.